The green line, or the blue line, is acute flaccid paralysis. If you add polio and acute flaccid paralysis together, you get the exact same line that's on the acute flaccid paralysis, which tells you that all that they did was start recategorizing all of these acute flaccid paralysis cases. In India in 2010, there were over 40,000 cases of this. In 2011, it was over 60,000 cases. And the death rate after vaccination from this new type of polio, supposedly, is more than twice what it was beforehand. So why else are parents asking questions and people wondering? Because we hear all the time about how these unvaccinated, crazy people are causing disease outbreaks. There were over 40,000 cases of whooping cough a couple of years ago nationwide. There have been now over 500 cases of measles in the country this year. And there were, I think, about 8,000 to 10,000 cases of mumps in 2005-06. What's interesting is PBS did an investigation of the San Diego outbreak, and 85% of the people, 600 cases, were fully vaccinated. It's not the non-vaccinators. It's the vaccine failure that's to blame. If you look at the mumps outbreak, and there have been many of them all across the Midwest, in New York and other places, as many as 97% of the people are fully vaccinated. If you look at measles, there's a huge range, 50 to, in some cases, 100% vaccination, 2 doses of it. And then, of course, we're having polio outbreaks. And there are polio outbreaks in many countries. It's not just India. We're having them in many other places. And they're actually derived from the vaccine. It's a vaccine strain of polio that's breaking out in these countries and causing the outbreaks. It's not wild polio virus. Another big reason people are so concerned is because there's no liability. So when you go and get a flu vaccine, and then you develop Guillain-Barré, paralysis and nervous system damage after the flu vaccine, nobody's liable. You can go to the vaccine court, the Federal Court of Claims, and you can file for compensation, but you can't hold the doctor responsible or the vaccine maker responsible or anything like that. Every single vaccine that's sold in America has a 75-cent tax levied on it, and that money goes into this fund to compensate the injuries, the victims of vaccine injury. And most patients who go in and get a vaccine don't even know that this program exists. Doctors are required by law to tell you about it, to tell you of vaccine injuries, to tell you what the risks and the benefits are, but very often they don't, and the vast majority of people don't even know the system exists. I think that the total amount paid into the compensation fund has been $5 or $6, $7 billion. There's still a few billion in it, and a few billion has been paid out. The thing is, if you do have a vaccine reaction and you file, it can take 10 or 12 years to work through the courts. And you're up against a federal program being defended by federal lawyers and special masters, who are these federally appointed judges, defending a federal program with federal money. It's virtually impossible. The estimates are that maybe 20 to 25% of people ever even get any kind of compensation, but most people never even go there because there's a statute of limitations of 3 years. So most people don't even figure out that their problem is probably vaccine related. Because if you do go to the hospital will often tell you, oh no, it's a coincidence. It couldn't possibly be the vaccine. So people are wising up, and I think any thinking person has to ask themselves, would I drive a car produced by a manufacturer if the manufacturer bore no liability? Would I, go to a doctor if they had no liability for anything? I mean, doctors have insurance for everything, but not for this. And so people have to really wonder.